Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. Breaking news, former Liverpool director of football Michael Edwards is set to return to the club, and not just that, to a wider reaching role within Liverpool and Fenway Sports Group itself. Yes, Michael Edwards is back on the books. What does it mean? What is the role? Some more details all to follow. There is an official statement that Fenway Sports Group released today, just now, which I'm going to read through as much as possible. I apologize if this is a touch dry, but there's some really interesting stuff in there. I don't want to miss out on any. So obviously it starts with the usual, just explain. The Fenway Sports Group announces Michael Edwards as CEO of football. So yes, that tells you what we're talking about already. Wider reaching role for the former Liverpool man. Former, current and future. Fenway Sports Group, a global sports marketing, media, entertainment and real estate company, today announced that Michael Edwards will be joining the organisation in the role of CEO of football, where the 44-year-old executive will assume a broad range of responsibilities, including leading efforts to identify and recruit new leadership for Liverpool FC's football operation and support the growth of FSG in global football through additional investments and acquisition. In this position, Edwards will report directly to FSG's ownership group, led by principal owner John Henry, chairman Tom Werner, and president Mike Gordon. They go on to explain that Edwards previously worked as sporting director at the Merseyside club, overseeing a period of success which saw the team win 7 major titles, including UEFA Champions League trophy, and ending a 30-year wait to become English top-flight champions. Now, following on for this, we've got a quote here from FSG President Mike Gordon, who people will be familiar with his name. He's been very hands-on at Liverpool during the FSG tenure. He's seen as one of the was seen under Jurgen Klopp as one of the sort of holy trinity of him, Klopp and Edwards. This is him speaking next in the statement. He says, Michael is one of the most formidable executive talents in world football, and John, Tom and I are absolutely thrilled to have secured his services for our business, said FSG President Mike Gordon. He returns to us in a role with greater seniority than he held previously and with a wider remit. It was clear when we initially reached out to him that a broader scope would be a key motivating factor for any potential return to the industry. In this regard, and many others, his ambitions matched ours. As an organisation, we constantly strive for improvement in our football operation, whether that be identifying fresh opportunities externally or areas for enhancement internally, and there is no better person to lead that ongoing process. In keeping with this objective, he will take over responsibilities that I have previously held regarding oversight and management of Liverpool FC's football operation. Fulfilling that role has been one of the greatest privileges of my life, and handing it over and returning to a more traditional role in ownership is something I have been hoping to do for some time, but only if we could find the right individual or structure. In Michael, we now have the ideal person to assume these responsibilities. I look forward to working with him again from my position within ownership, from where I will continue to lead engagement on matters relating to football. On behalf of everyone at FSG, I'm delighted to welcome him back and hugely excited to see one of the most sought-after executives back in our ranks. So, just to pick that bit apart, was as suspected. So I did a JNO Inside show with Neil Jones earlier on today, which is now up on redmenplus.com, which you can watch or listen to right now if you head over to the website and obviously subscribe. And this was what was most interesting about this, because it's not quite been talked about very much, because Liverpool are obviously looking to recruit a manager. They need to recruit a director of football above that. But actually something that wasn't really being addressed was Mike Gordon's being the guy who sits above that. Obviously Billy Hogan has a big role at Liverpool Football Club and he's moving more towards FSG as well. But Mike Gordon was basically Liverpool and FSG's go-between. And he had tried to step back from that role and was taking more active hand in the sale process, or the investment process, as it ultimately ended up being, that happened earlier on in the year. We saw Gordon then come back a bit more into the fold as this season's progressed, but the general sense was that he kind of, let's say, had enough, but he was prepared to move on to something else with his life. So what we're seeing here, and this is confirmed by the statement, is that Michael Edwards is effectively taking those responsibilities away from Mike Gordon. Now, what's really interesting, Klopp speaks very, very highly of Gordon. He's quite a shadowy sort of figure. Obviously, John Henry's seen as the principal owner of both Liverpool and Fenway Sports Group, and him and Linda are almost seen as like the PR faces. They're the de facto, when you say who owns Liverpool, you say John W. Henry, and you might say Tom Werner as well. Mike Gordon is the other part of that, but he's very much been, I say, that hands-on role, the go-between between the ownership group that owns Liverpool and Liverpool Football Club. And it's seen as being very, very good at that role. Now, I had a very, very, very minor conversation with him at Fenway many years ago in a pre-season game. Couldn't get more of a passing sense of him being quite a nice fella. But yeah, seen as a very, very shrewd operator, but one who obviously done his time at Liverpool and looking to move on. And Michael Edwards is effectively being hired to fill more of his role in a more direct, hands-on nature with Liverpool. And it's interesting that he references that. Mike Gordon's someone who's come to it almost like grown into the role, whereas Michael Edwards is basically the first time they've actually really appointed someone to directly do it from outside. Although obviously getting someone who was inside the organisation makes sense. It wouldn't have been outside the realms of possibility, I guess, to have seen him rise up directly without having to take his leave. But Edwards felt that after 10 years of the club, he needed to take a break. I'm sure this might be referenced to the game, but he needed this new challenge, and this is what they're saying is on the cards for him. So to the next part of the statement is this from Michael Edwards. He says, "I am very grateful to Mike, John, Tom and the ownership group for offering me the opportunity to take this new leadership role within FSG. I was humbled by the desire and persistence they showed in wanting to work with me again. This is definitely not something that I take for granted given their track record across sport and business. It was vital for me that, if I did return, it had to be with renewed vigour and energy. In practice, that means fresh challenges and opportunities. As such, one of the biggest factors in my decision is the commitment to acquire and oversee an additional club, growing this area of their organisation. I believe that to remain competitive, investment and expansion of the current football portfolio is necessary." So let's just pick that apart for a moment. Now, what we've seen, and this was something that Neil referenced again on Journo Insight, that while it won't be a full-blown Citigroup type of organisation, Liverpool have had these conversations for a while. They obviously had conversations with Redmen a number of years ago, who obviously have a hand in a couple of football clubs already. And we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen with Chelsea. We've seen how Man United used to have. It used to be feeder clubs back in the day, where you'd have clubs where you have a working relationship with, so you could send certain players out there maybe to get the young players to get some experience. That's been very much a professionalised thing that's happened since the Roman Abramovich era, particularly for English clubs. And what it allows you to do is that it gives you a nice pathway. It means that you have greater control over certain footballers. You can maybe create some sort of breeding grounds. And it's actually been quite a controversial move. There's a really good article that was written on Sport and Intelligence lately, talking about the French club that's part of the Citigroup that effectively has had their dreams and ambitions trampled by Man City, using them to basically push a bunch of young talent in the hope that they can grow talent for the Man City team. But we have seen, from a financial perspective, just having that sort of support network around you, where you can put coaches, you can almost potentially, I mean, I think the case in point, because obviously it seems quite a negative thing with regards to Chelsea stockpiling talent and then farming them out to their variety of other football clubs. City doing a similar thing, but FSG have been known admirers of the Red Bull Group. I know they come with their own set of problems as well, but I think people from an operational perspective, looking at Salzburg, you go Salzburg to Leipzig to wherever players want to go, to the top of the Bundesliga or to a host of top European clubs from there on in. And that's a great pathway of financial development. It allows you to bring players in at a level that really aren't quite ready for your top tier football club. Good example of this is, let's say, Erling Haaland to Takumi Minamino. So Liverpool go and get Minamino directly from Salzburg, and he's not quite ready to be right at Liverpool's sort of level. Whereas, as an example of Erling Haaland, does Salzburg actually, and he's so good that he makes the jump and goes to Borussia Dortmund, and then in turn comes to Manchester City. There'll be other examples of it that people will be doubtless screaming in the comments. Please feel free to let me know. A couple of them is Timo Werner, maybe one of them. But it's interesting, yeah, and as I said, they've had a lot of conversations. It's been talked about for years that they've had conversations, and they were keen admirers of what Red Bull have done there. Not in terms of taking over local clubs and wrecking the 50+1 rule in the Bundesliga and all that kind of stuff, but more, creating a nice solid empire where you can, funnel it all up towards your main operation, I guess is the way to look at that. But that's interesting. Liverpool could effectively have a brother or sister football club coming into this world. That is really, really, and it wouldn't shock me, given where Liverpool have gone into the market lately, if they ended up with a Portuguese club. Wouldn't that be interesting? Anyway, okay, let's continue with the statement then. So, more directly to his impact on Liverpool, Michael Edwards continues, with Liverpool FC, I will oversee the required reinforcement of football operations with a number of essential leadership positions needing urgent attention. I know from personal experience what a wonderful job Mike Gordon has done with day-to-day oversight on behalf of his fellow owners. Going forward, I'm looking forward to working with FSG's Board of Managers. Also, in assuming this role, I fully understand that it comes with great expectations, and I therefore intend to identify, hire and subsequently empower leaders who meet and embody the club's values and ambitions. Having served the club previously, I need no reminder of how much emotional investment is made by supporters in the city itself, as well as across the UK and the world. I am looking forward to getting started. I mean, that's the thing we're all here for, let's be perfectly honest. I find the other stuff around it fascinating because, listen, I know the inside of a cat's arse when it comes to Liverpool. I've been covering them that long. So I find, the general reasonings behind it and the higher business stuff is just the kind of thing that sort of, I don't know, tickles my fancy. I like that kind of stuff. And it's a really interesting insight because this hasn't happened with Liverpool before, and you don't often get to see these. I mean, these kind of statements I'm sure happen in big business all over the world all the time, but it's fallen finally within my area of expertise. So I think this is really, really cool. But anyway, the last bit is the stuff that will relate to us on a more day-to-day, the rest of the season, next season, the years to come. And, it's what is Michael Edwards going to be doing at Liverpool? What is his role? What are the challenges that he faces? And look, without naming them, we know what roles he's discussing. He talks about a number of essential leadership positions needing urgent attention. That is director of football, and that is manager. And then beneath that, that's things like assistant manager and a variety of coaches, obviously with Kravitz and Matos leaving as well. Liverpool have got a number of coaching roles that were going to need to be filled, not just the manager or head coach. And then potentially others that we're not aware of just yet. And there might even be more. One of the things we speculated on Journo Insight was, this idea of when you let Jurgen Klopp go, you're effectively letting go a world-class manager. And there are no other world-class managers on the market right now. You're going to get potential world-class. So do you, rather than ask someone who's not at that level to fulfill everything that Jurgen Klopp did, do you maybe get some additional people in and around the club to take on some of those kind of responsibilities so that the manager effectively gets to be, and this is something that Neil put forward in the show, more head coach than manager, which is really, really interesting to see. So are we just talking about director of football and Jurgen Klopp's replacement, or is it something, is there more to it than that? That's quite interesting to me, and we'll see that in the fullness of time. What's excellent about this is when someone like Michael Edwards says, in assuming this role, I fully understand that it comes with great expectations, and therefore I need to identify, hire and subsequently empower leaders who meet and embody the club's values and ambitions. You know that he knows what he's talking about. This is not like, because we've had it, the only reasonable analogues I can sort of describe, or parallels to this I can describe, is managers, where, because this has got a lot of like those sort of similar vibes. And owners to some extent. I remember Hicks and Gillette coming in and saying big things. FSG came in and said quite big things, but in a much calmer, more understated kind of way. But the difference between, let's say, like a Roy Hodgson coming in and a Brendan Rodgers, neither man was ultimately the level of manager that was required to make a Liverpool, a total top dogs in footy. Roy Hodgson basically didn't bother with all the sort of like, and here's what Liverpool means, blah, blah, because he didn't care. It was just a management job to him. Brendan Rodgers absolutely got it, and he said all the big words. He knew what to say, but then ultimately didn't have what it took to deliver upon those words. And that's the good thing about Michael Edwards. He knows the right words to say, but he's also actually on a day-to-day totally and utterly aware of exactly what it means. He's been there. He's been at the games. When we talk about Liverpool having sort of absentee owners, Michael Edwards has been at the coalface for Liverpool from, Liverpool being down in the doldrums to rising up to being back to a European superpower as well. So he is fully versed in the expectations. And because he's been the guy, he's been the one negotiating transfer deals. He's been the one dealing with the financial constraints put in place by the ownership group. He knows what that's all about. So he knows the expectations from the owners and he knows the expectation from the fans. So this just feels like such a canny move to bring him back in, because there is no director of football out there who brings that level of understanding of Liverpool and the quality within the role. And actually, you could go and get someone like Xabi Alonso who understands what it means to be at Liverpool, and that would help that as well. But if you got someone like Ruben Amorim, he wouldn't have that cultural connection. So actually having a guaranteed person in a leadership role at Liverpool who does totally and utterly get what it means to be there and what that means feels big, like really, really, really big. Couple of last little bits to tidy up on this. Just to reiterate that last bit, having served the club previously, I need no reminder of how much emotional investment is made by supporters in the city itself, as well as across the UK and the world. I am looking forward to getting started. The final bit here says, Edwards will no longer work as a consultant to sports management business Ludonautics, where he has advised since it was established in 2023. And just a final little bit to tidy up. Edwards spent over a decade at Liverpool, serving initially as performance director upon joining in 2011, before being promoted to sporting director in 2015, a post he held until his departure in 2022. During that time, the club secured its 6th UEFA European Cup/Champions League, a first ever Premier League title, a UEFA European Super Cup, a historic FIFA Club World Cup, the FA Cup and a League Cup. He's credited with building an industry-leading football operations team, marrying a data-led approach with scouting and intelligence to revolutionise the organisation's recruitment, player trading, squad planning and major football-led decision-making. So yes, Liverpool have basically got the most desired director of football on the planet, and got him back and given him a greater reign to control things that happen at the football club, which feels pretty good to me, if I'm being perfectly honest. But the Ludonautics thing, just lastly on that, is interesting. So that's what he's been doing. He took some time out from football and then set this up with Ian Graham, who was the head of data and analytics at Liverpool. I believe I've got that role right, but effectively he was the guy running Liverpool's data department, and they were involved in this company, and they were effectively selling their services of data and what have you to other, football clubs and that kind of stuff. I believe I heard one that they recently worked with someone lower down the football pyramid, but that would represent a conflict of interest. But what it also does mean is that Edwards has gone away. He's not just been yet locked in this Liverpool focused myopic world where your job is day to day. He's actually been able to take a little bit of a time away, get a broader view of it, and then work within a company whose job it is to delve even deeper. So Liverpool have got an amazing, best in class data department already, and he's then work with another one. There's a chance that it means that he'll have a broader data set, he'll have access and a greater circle of friends to call upon, to give Liverpool even more great data and analytical insight as well when it comes to how they play on the pitch, but also things like recruitment as well. So wow, here we go. Look, I appreciate that this isn't like, it's not a transfer, but I've been thinking about the Jurgen Klopp stuff lately and how signing Jurgen Klopp was a very un-Liverpool move in so many regards, that he was effectively best in class that was available at the time. You know, okay, him and Carlo Ancelotti were the two guys in the running for the job at that time. The only time that it came close was when they signed Rafael Benitez, but ultimately he was second best in class. It was Mourinho who was the best manager on the market available that summer, and obviously went to Chelsea because of, we know why. So Liverpool going and getting someone that good. This is getting Edwards for this role is when other clubs, I mean, look, Man United look like they've done a decent job in getting Barada from City. How integrated he was into what they do, I'm not entirely certain. That seems like quite a smart move from them. But yeah, Liverpool to go and get this guy. And it's well worth pointing out that Chelsea wanted him, Real Madrid wanted him, Manchester United wanted him, and they've kind of left him alone, let him live a little bit of his life, see how the situation's developed, and then given him the keys to the kingdom. So yeah, good. I'm genuinely, I'm really happy with this. How happy will remain... it looks like Richard Hughes is going to take over. So that's the next sort of, just briefly on this, because, you know, I think the Edwards stuff is enough for now. But Fabrizio Romano tweeted, Richard Hughes is already an agreement in place to join Liverpool. It will happen at the end of the season. After excellent job at Bournemouth, he's going to leave at the end of the season to sign for Liverpool. He's part of the Michael Edwards plan. I think he's actually completed his garden and leave and all that kind of his notice period. So whether they just would leave it as a clean break to the end of the season, I'm not entirely certain. But the good thing is he's free to join Liverpool now. There's no like mad negotiations that need to happen, which what that most importantly means is that they can crack on. And that, yes, appointing the manager is huge, but actually you've got to start planning for the summer. There's big contracts, there's Trent, there's Salah, there's Van Dijk. I think Alisson might even be in that conversation as well. There's huge contracts to be renegotiated or players to be sold, and there's obviously transfers potentially for players to come in. You don't want to be starting that in June or July. That's how you end up on the back foot before a season's even started. So yeah, the point is as well, even if let's say the Richard Hughes thing wasn't true, Michael Edwards is capable of fulfilling that role from his position already. His arms are so long and he's so talented, he could drive the car from the back seat if he really, really had to. So yeah, that's good. It means that the Reds can crack on, so that when the new manager comes in, the work doesn't start on that day. The work can start now, effectively, if it hasn't already been starting, to be honest. So yeah, fascinating stuff. Obviously, you guys have been sending comments in. Stephen Ryder had said, brilliant, Michael Edwards is coming back. Who do you think will be sporting director? It looks very much like Richard Hughes is going to be Liverpool's sporting director. That seems as done a deal as possible. Pocky says, Peggy Arfex added a sporting director, apparently. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone would be up for that. A bit of Peggy. There is a top trump of naming obscure Liverpool footballers, if ever there was one, was good old Peggy. Sad. Right, let me see. There's a lot of people talking about the Klopp role, and there was a lot of like negative rumours flying around about Jurgen Klopp wresting more control and maybe taking it away from the sporting directors, and maybe that impacted Julian Ward's role taking over from Michael Edwards. I had a good chat with Neil on this. I think we're putting that out on the YouTube channel later on, so keep your eyes peeled for that one, of course. Obviously, other people then speculating in the comments around the next manager. The good thing is, I think there's one point on this now, is that I trust Michael Edwards. I think Michael Edwards is very, 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 very good at what he does. And so if he chooses Alonso, then I'll be proven right that was the guy I wanted. It's great to know that he wanted him as well. But if he goes down a different path, I trust that as well now. Whereas if Liverpool had gotten in someone that we didn't know, we're having to convince ourselves on this guy and his role and what he's doing, as well as then who they're then appointing. It does, I think, having someone of that quality makes that next decision that little bit easier. Like, as an example, like if Liverpool had just signed Richard Hughes as manager, as director of football, apologies, if Mike Gordon stays in place and Liverpool just hire Richard Hughes and everyone's going, well, there's the guy from Bournemouth, and it will come up, people will go, well, Michael Edwards rinsed him for Jordan Ibe and Brad Smith and Dom Solanke, although probably not so, given Solanke's been a success. There will be question marks over that, whereas now it's like, well, Edwards thinks this guy's the guy, and then he will have a hand in appointing the next manager as well. It allows you to be a bit more laissez-faire over all this thing, to be honest. Mike78 says, fantastic news, to be fair. Always loved Edwards. Cash says, brilliant news regarding Edwards. Hopefully Hughes and Alonso will be next. And Stephen Ryder says, great start to next season. Dave says something we touched on earlier on in the show. Multi-club ownership is fascinating. Never thought Liverpool would go there. Future looks exciting, to say the least. Yes, indeed. Listen, drop a like on this video if you want more from me, talking much more in depth on this rather than just reading the statement and giving my take. I mentioned it. Journo Insight with Neil Jones is live right now on redmenplus.com. Head over to there. Dan Club, I'm certain, will be feverishly scrabbling around the internet trying to get experts who know more about this to talk about it as well. So great time. And I don't know whether you've heard, but Liverpool are basically on for a quadruple this season. They are flying in the league, in Europe, and in the domestic cups with one already secured. There's never been a better chance to get more Liverpool content in your life podcast videos. Go to redmenplus.com. Up the Reds. Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.